G'day everyone, we've just had a bit of a pre-show which I'm going to cut out as soon as YouTube lets me do that. It takes a while to process, so hopefully if you're looking a little bit later on you won't see that pre-show that we've had. If you do want to get the pre-shows, sometimes I'm there for 10-15 minutes, so you just have to make sure you log in live to catch that. Usually we have discussions and questions and things like that. It was a bit later today though, so it was only fairly short. Today we've got some really interesting things to share with you, as well as that, we're just about going into spring here, well in 2 or 3 weeks, but I've noticed already the flowers are starting to flower in the trees. I live in an area which is famous for its apples. So spring here is gorgeous, and I'm hoping to do some model shoots amongst all the spring flowers, which hopefully I'll be able to film. Well, I will film it and I'll be able to show you guys how it looks. It's just stunning. We also have all these amazing canola fields here as well, which are just a whole massive yellow over all the fields, and I'm going to do a shoot in that too, so I'll be showing you that as well coming up soon too. So really looking forward to it. I love spring. It's one of my favourite times of the year. So today we're going to go through a whole stack of obviously news, rumours, as well, and I've got a few other things that I'm going to sort of talk to you about as well in the news aspect as well. I've got a shoot that I want to go through you with, that I can show how my light setup was and things like that we can look at, and we'll have a part that's there for my what's in my gear bag, and also a question time which we'll have at the end. So I'm going to bring the questions up at the end, so just keep asking those questions, and when we have that question period at the end, I'll bring that up so everyone can see them, and I'll answer all the questions so we can go through it that way. It might just make the live show stream a little bit quicker, so don't think I'm not answering them. I will answer them, but I'll answer them when we have that last bit of questions at the end. I'll just scroll through them and bring them up so you can all see them. So let's go down to the news, because I want to bring that up, and we'll go through that because I want to bring up a few different things with you today that we can discuss and have a chat about. Obviously, like I said, if you have questions about this, I've just got to change this camera. Yeah, we've got a few things that I want to talk to you about. Just let me switch just to make sure that hear me, because it doesn't update sometimes. There we go, it's better. Okay, so the first thing I'm actually going to talk to you about is this article that's just been put up this morning, which says that Sony have confirmed that they will never leave the APS-C market. Now, this is a really interesting thing, and it's a really good thing, because like I said, I love my A6500 and the A6300, and I'm really hoping to soon get whatever the next camera is, which is probably the A6700. But clearly what they're saying in this article is that they are going to support it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I've left you the links down below, and you can have a read of this article. But clearly a lot of people were a bit worried about it, thinking that they were abandoning that market. So it looks like they obviously aren't going to. And to be honest, I think that the A6500 at the moment is probably the best all-around, well, it's probably the best all-around camera on the market. So it's just a beautiful camera, great for photography, great for video, great in low light, the focusing is amazing. So clearly I'm happy too that they're saying this, because I was also wondering sometimes about how they're going with it. The area they seem to be neglecting is the lenses side of it, so I'm hoping they do release some more lenses later on. But like I said, I've really got no real issues with that, because I do use the full frame lenses on it as well, and I've had no issues doing that. So for me, I'm quite comfortable with the lens selection that I've got, and as long as I've got the 24 1.8, which is my favourite lens for that system completely, and the 18 to 105, I'm really happy. And occasionally, if I need an 85mm, I'm using the 55mm 1.8 lens on it, which works beautifully with the A6500. So yeah, I just thought that I'd share that with you. Like I said before, keep asking your questions, because I'll bring that back up in question time, and we'll scroll through and I'll answer the questions then. Excuse me about this cough, it's still persisting. So let's go to the next article. This was another one that was released this morning. Sony, basically there's a rumour, it's an SR3, that Sony are going to release the HLV F60M as a wireless flash, which would be great. That's the flash I use all the time on my cameras. I've got 3 of these that I use. Very, very powerful. There was a lot of issues early on where it overheated, but since the new firmware came out a couple of years ago, mine had the new firmware and I've never had an issue with it overheating. So, and I use them like run and gun in weddings all the time. And I've never ever had them overheating. I love the LCD light that's at the back of these. I think that's an amazing thing. When you hold that up, it's got an LCD light that you can use to get focus and things like that. But now that that's going to have the wireless built in, it's going to be a great all-around flash. I know most of you are probably using Godox and things like that, but seeing this as the Sony News and Rumours, I thought that I'd talk to you about that. I may upgrade to these flashes. I'm not sure because I'm still really happy with mine. I'm using it with a Photex receiver and transmitter, which works really, really well. Never had an issue with it. It works with high-speed sync, and it also works with TTL. So they're a great flash. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that to you soon, that hopefully they're going to release this with a wireless version. Like I said, I know most of you are using Godox, so you may not find that interesting, but I do. Another really interesting thing that I read this morning was a great review of the Sony A9, and I've left you this link in the comment box down below. But it's a really good review that he takes through everything and basically shows down the bottom some of his images that he's actually captured in a wedding. So you might find it interesting if you're contemplating getting the Sony A9. And again, it's really nice work, and I think it's a really well-written review. So you can have a look at that as well. And like I said, I've put that in the description box down below, and he's talking about how the high frame rate, you know, is a game changer for basically capturing that moment that you actually want to capture, which is really, really good. And there's a great example here that you can actually see that he's capturing it. It's almost like video. I mean, when you're shooting with the A9 and you're shooting on the fast frame rate, it is actually like grabbing video. It's incredibly useful if you're trying to capture that moment. I don't use it all the time. I very rarely use it, to be honest, but I'm really excited when it gets warmer that I'm going to be able to do some dancing photos and have them jumping and capture that perfect moment. Before I had to use my A6500, which worked great, fantastic, but I'm excited to use the A9 in that scenario because it's even given me more frames per second, you know, and probably, well, it is a little bit better in focusing, so I can't wait to get that. And again, you know, he takes you through all of the things about battery life and everything else, and a good conclusion at the end. So have a look at that article. Again, it's down below, so you can check that out. There's another interesting bit of news this morning too about Velo have released a review of the new Nikon AF mount. I'm not sure how well that works, so it's going to be interesting to see what that review is like. I haven't even checked the video yet because I just found this before I came online. Now, I originally sold all my Nikon glass, so for me it's not relative anymore, but I suppose if you are coming over from Nikon, that it may be relative if you have the Nikon glass, and if it works reasonably well. There was real problems early on because of the mechanical structure of the lenses, that it wasn't as easy to use as, say, the Canon lenses. So this will be interesting to see how it actually works. So check that out if you are coming from the Nikon lenses and you want to use those on your Sony lenses. It's $300 off at the moment, so it's obviously a good special if you were going to get into that lens adapter. Now, there's another interesting article which I've got here that I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but one of the things that you find, we get questions all the time about what lens you think is more suitable for you and things like that. Well, this article is really, really good because it shows you how to use Lightroom to work out what your favorite focal length is. And this can be a way that you can actually get the focal length you use most of the time. It'll tell you what the focal length is. So even if you're using a 70-200, it will tell you what focal length out of that range you're using most of the time. That way you can work out what lenses may suit your shooting. I can probably guarantee if I went through this, I'd always be shooting probably mostly around the 35 and the 85 because they're the most prime lenses I'm using. And if I'm using the 70-200, I'm often using it at the 200 focal length. So I'm going to probably go through this too and see how my lens choices work out when I'm using the 70-200 and the other lenses like 16-35, and just see what focal length I'm using. So if you are contemplating on what lens should I buy, well, this is a great article because it will take you through the whole thing and it tells you how to do it. and you will be able to, it shows a step-by-step instructions about how to go through it all. And then you'll actually be able to list the main focal lengths that you use. So it can be a real advantage if you're thinking about moving to primes, and it will tell you whether some lenses that you've got are really not even any good for you, and you might think about selling them because you're not ever using those focal lengths. So yeah, it's a really interesting thing to have a look at. So again, I'm not going to take you through that whole article now, but I thought it might be something that you really find interesting. So let me know what you think about that. And again, I'm going to go through the questions about this a little bit later when we have the time for questions on this live video. But yeah, let me know what you think about that. Another one I saw, which really I thought was really quite good, was this, because I do this all the time. This article is called How I Saw the World Before and After I Became a Photographer. And it's really interesting because I do this all the time. People sometimes look at me really weird because I'll look at something and I'll say to my wife or someone I'm with, oh my God, look at the light there. And I'll be looking for light wherever I am. And I do look at things in a different way. And it'll be interesting to let me know whether you think that you do this as well. You know, do you look at things and look at it from a photographer's point of view rather than looking at from a normal person's type view? And what they're showing is they've got different images here that you're looking at, that you're saying, yeah, you see the one on the top, and then you'd sort of see that, yes, that's how I can envisage shooting it. Again, down here. And it's a good article because I do this, like I said, it's actually very factual. I do this all the time. I do see life like I'm looking through my camera lens. And it's really interesting if you start to look at this article. And again, I've got this posted down below so you can have a look. But yeah, great article. I thought that was really, really cute and a great way of looking at things. You know, you can see he's just bending down and then they can envision the image underneath. But yeah, great. And I thought I'd post that for you because you might really find that interesting. Like I said, I'm going to bring up the questions soon, guys, so we can go through those all together. And we'll do that, like I said, as a live discussion at the end in the question time. That way we can move fairly quickly through all of these articles. So let's go now down to what's in my bag, because I want to talk to you about 3 things that I'm actually using for gimbals. Now, I'm using a number of different gimbals at the moment. I've got this new, I think they're Zhiyun, aren't they? Smooth Q that I've actually got. I've also got the Smooth C, which is the one before this one. And I've also got the DJI one as well. And I thought I'd talk to you about which one I tend to like the best, because I've still got this one in the box. I have actually taken it out, but I'm thinking about selling it because I thought I'd buy it to see if it was much of an improvement over this one, which is the Smooth C. The interesting thing is the newer one's plastic, whereas this one is all metal. The older one is more all metal. But to be honest, I've found that my favourite one of any of these is the actual Osmo. This one is just, I don't know, there's just something about this. I like the way it fits in my hand. It's really, even though it's a plastic device, it comes with this great stand that you can just plug into the bottom there, so it'll actually stand up on its own. And I've just found the features in this work so well. Like the time lapse works great, the tracking works really great. It's really easy to balance. And I just tend to like it overall much better. And I like the app, that the DJI mobile app tends to work better for me personally. So I'm going to be interested to see if any of you guys have thoughts about which one of these you tend to like the best. But after sort of looking at all of these, I think I'm really just going to stick with this DJI Osmo, which I think is by far the better one of the whole lot of them. But let me know what you think. I just like the way this connects. It balances really easy. It's very, very steady. The battery runs all day. I love the way the battery just comes out at the bottom. It's really, really good. Feels great in your hand. You've got the little thing here that you can stick other things out of, you know, like if you've got mounts and stuff to have extra monitors in, or microphones and things like that. I just like this one generally overall. But let me know what you guys think about that. I always carry 2 with me because when I'm shooting, just in case if one breaks down. Again, it's always that you have to have backup in case if something happens. But yeah, let me know what you think about that, guys. Let me know which one you think is the best, whether you've had a try of 2 or 3 of them. Like I said, I've had all 3, and I think by far the DJI Osmo is the better one of the whole lot. Like I said, I think I'm just going to sell that. I think I'm just going to sell the new Smooth Q. Yeah, so let me know what you think about that. Now I'm going to go down and we'll talk about a shoot, because I want to bring this up so we can have a look. Now, what I thought I'd show you is, I'm not sure whether I've showed you some of these images before, but I've found some images that actually show how this shoot was actually done. So I thought that we'd go through this as well, and I can basically give you an idea about how it's built up as well. Because if you look at this, you can see, let me just bring this desk scribble up so I can show you and I can draw on it. You can see here that I've got 2 flashes that I've actually built into here. So what I'm doing here is I'm building a little bit of separation for her there, and I'm also giving a little bit of fill in the front. Now this had a grid on it, which makes it so, remember, the worst thing you can do is light up this background here or here. That's why I've tended to use grids on this. Because it's very, very important to control that amount of light. Now, before I even did this, I'll just show you, basically, I scoped the location out and I did some tests. I actually brought in a fog machine, and you can see the fog machine is down here. This is a generator, and then I've got a fog machine that I'm playing around with actually through here. And you can see the sort of results that I'm starting to get when I'm coming through here. So what I'm doing is I just search the area for an area that I think I like, and I actually then start to play around with the ambient exposure before I'm actually bringing the girl in or the model in. Now this photo was actually chosen by ProPhoto. They actually featured this photo, so I was rapt that they actually asked me to show this. Just let me click off my watch so it doesn't go off. I better put my phone on quiet too. Yeah, so I actually... like I said, I balanced the ambient first, and then I brought in the girl. And like I said, I was so happy with the way this image came out, and I'll show you that shortly. But it was, like I said, chosen by ProPhoto, so, you know, that was an amazing thing as well. So now we'll go back and have a look at the image here. And basically, what you're looking at there is, like I said, I've sat her down on this rock, which I think is really, really nice. This was only one of the pre-test examples. You can see here that there's a couple of other examples where I've done the same thing here, but I'll talk to you about that in a moment. So you can sort of see there that I've lit her just from these 2 ProPhoto units. The fog actually was then brought in a little bit later on. And then basically what I've ended up with is this image. So you can see that that's the result. Now this is unedited, so you can sort of see what's happened here, that I've brought a little bit of fog in over her, and you can sort of see her laughing. So this is just the testing stage of this scenario, so you can sort of see how that's worked. Now again, this was another one that I did. This was one that ProPhoto ended up using as well as another one. You can see that she's lit up from these 2 lights. So she's got a bit of a kick on the back through here, and she's also lit from the front, you can see through this section here. Now, because this has had a grid on it, again, I haven't had the spill that's come all through these sections. So because we want to avoid that, remember, you want to draw attention to the actual model. So you can see here what I've actually done is I've enabled that to actually happen. And again, if you look at the result that I've come out with when it's actually edited, I've had to do a fair bit of editing. Now, by the way, I've got her holding this barrel or this bowl here, there, and I knew that I was going to have to do some Photoshop work to make that look like I wanted, and you'll see how that looks in a second. But you have to envision the look of what you're actually going to go through in the end. And when I actually ended up getting the image was actually this. So that's the image that I actually created with the background. Now this image, it's hard to see for the background, but you can just make it out. It's just the retouching that I've actually done. But again, I just love that type of look that this image has been able to get. it's just beautiful, I think, and it's mysterious, which is what I was after. I've had to sort of make the light glow, and I've had to bring retouching in and make that glow coming in through sections like this, which is given her to show up through that sort of section through here and also here. So you've got to be very careful when you're doing this that the light looks believable. And again, if you look down at the next image through here, you can see that this was the second one that I've actually done. There was 2 lights used in here as well. There was one that was just off the camera to this side, and there was one obviously through here that's lighting her up again. I did ask her to basically show a little bit of a lead because I wanted this one a little bit more sexy. So I did ask her basically to show a little bit of her legs there, just because it was the look that I actually wanted to get it. That's more of a sexy look in this one. And you can see that when we've brought that one up through here, that this is the result that I got from that image as well. And ProPhoto shared this one, which was great too. They asked me if they could use them, and I said, yeah, go for it. I was actually quite honoured that ProPhoto had asked me to use the actual image. Again, you can see that fog. I'm not sure how much it'll show on yours, but you can see the fog that just basically comes through here. So that was created in the camera using that fog machine that I actually had. So it did come from that. Again, I try to make it as realistic as possible, capturing it real time. So, I was really happy with how that worked. And you can see that when you look at these other 2 images, how I've been playing around with the fog. That's actually very similar to the fog that I used from there. So that's the sort of results that I got from that type look. These are other images that I actually grabbed at the same time. This florist actually asked me to do some work for her. She wanted to put them on her shop and on her website, so she gave me a headpiece. It was paid, obviously. She gave me a headpiece for this, and she bought the images that I actually produced for these headpieces, and I was just so happy, and she loved them. She actually adored the headpieces there. The light, when you're looking at this, was way above her, so it was way above her up here, beaming sort of down, so it gave that light that came through that I love coming through that area. Again, this next image, it's typical of my work, very dark, very moody, but it's just the type of work that I love to actually show. It's really important for me to have that type of mood that I have. And again, it's my style. Not everyone loves that style, but this is my style. The lighting scenario here too was off the camera with a grid on, just basically lighting up her face on that side and the body here. You can see, if you look at it, that she's got shadows all on that side. So that's given her that lovely fall off. If you hadn't got that, there'd be no shape. So that the flash has given her that shape. And again, because it was all had grids on it, it hasn't lit up all of that other background area as well. Again, this is a black and white image that I did. Again, I just love the look that it's just very moody. Again, I just love black and white work as well. So it's just a different type of look that I wanted to get. I really had a Game of Thrones type idea when I did this. I really love Game of Thrones, and this was giving me a Game of Thrones type look. We then went down to the beach where I did these shots. These were all natural light, so there was no flash used at all on this. You can see the sun direction, actually, if you looked at it, was over in that area. You can see that from her face, where she's got that highlight and the dark has sort of come in through this section through here. Again, I just love that type of look. It's been muted a little bit down, and if we look at another couple of images that we grabbed here, again, that's just her walking along the beach. Again, it's had some editing that I like to get it that very oldie sort of Game of Thrones type look about it. And the last one I'm going to show you is this one, which was just her looking back at me, again with just the wind blowing in her hair, just with natural light again. But yeah, I just wanted to show you all of those. So let me know what you think about those sort of images, but when I say, I love the way that these look, and like I said, ProPhoto actually used these images in there for their work as well. So I was really honoured that they asked me if they could use them, and I just said, yes, go for it. So let me bring up this, because I want to bring up the questions and we can go through those. Let me bring that back, and let me grab to here. All right, so let's have a look at some questions, guys. So hit me with any questions that you want me to answer, and we'll go through them now. A lot of people are just saying hello, obviously. Tag the Shooter said, can't hear you now. Oh, I hope you can. Oh, yeah, you can hear me now. Hopefully you can hear me now. So let's go down here. So Marcus has said, David, have you mentioned the new Godox Flash? No, coming out. No, I haven't. So I'm not sure. Is there a new one coming out? Is there? There's always changing, so you can never keep up with it all. Godox are releasing stacks of stuff. I just haven't ever got into Godox because I'm using the Sony system and I've got Pro Photo. So for me, there's no reason for me to go over to Godox. But yeah, if you want to chime in, let me know about that. You could even put it in the comments down below, Marcus, and then I'll have a look at it if you leave it in the comments down below. Keith said, what made people think they were going to leave APS-C market? It's just because basically they haven't released many APS-C lenses, I think, Keith. And that's why some people are saying they were a bit worried about that they were going to release it. There's never been official announcements made, but they were just wondering because they haven't been releasing the lenses like they have with the E-mount. Obviously, they've been really concentrating on E-mount, so it's just something that you hear out there that people are saying. Tag the Shooter said, because they have not made no lens. Yeah, well, that's what he's actually said. Marcus said, Jones, are you in Massachusetts by any chance? That's obviously to someone else. What else have we got? Tag the Shooter said, yeah, the Flash, too expensive over Godox and not worth it. Yeah, and that's the issue, I suppose, is I suppose you'd have to look at how they're made. Godox tend to seem to be, most people do tend to be going over to that because they really are reasonably priced. I mean, quite cheap for what you're getting. And all of you guys keep telling me that they are really, really good. For me, like I said, there's no reason for me to buy that at this stage because I've got the Sony and I've got the Pro Photo, so there's no reason for me to move over into that. If I hadn't got any flash systems at the moment, I may get that 8200 and I may still get that to have a look at. But Godox are clearly a really good flash manufacturer now for the Sony mount and other mounts as well. What else have we got? Hussein said, what are you all up to? What else? Keith said, I just don't trust the Nikon to Sony adapters. I know after you listen to what some other people have said, it could be an issue. I know Jason Lanier and all that had issues with them breaking the camera. So, you know, I don't know. I haven't got to use it, so I'm not sure how that's actually going to go. Keith has said, David, just wow. I hope that's about my work, Keith. Hopefully it was about the work. Hussein said, your freaking painting style signature, love it. And that's, I suppose that is my style. And that's the thing, if you do look at my work, and that's why brides hire me, they see the type of work that I produce. And it is always very similar to that. And that comes down to my style. And I will be talking about that a lot when I go back onto the series of how you set up your photography business. And I will be talking about styles and things as well. The good thing for me is when brides hire me, they know the type of work that I have. So they hire me knowing what they're going to get. So it is very, like I said, it often is very dark and stuff, but it's the way that I tend to like to shoot. So it's just me. Like I said, it's not everyone's taste, but it's what I love to do. And really, I don't care what other people think because that's what I like to shoot. And that's, for me, what I want to do. So anyone that hires me already knows the type of work that I produce. So, you know, it's not an issue. Keith said, greetings from Seabrook in Texas. Hi, Keith. How are you? Casper said, I used to work on the docks, so I'm always looking for shade. And that's the thing I do too. I tend to look for shade as well. But those daylight shots that you saw were in full sun. It was sort of overcast, though, which helps. That made the light a lot softer. If you're dealing with harsh midday sun, well, then it can be a lot harder. And you've just got to make sure that you backlight them with the sun and then fill in with, you know, opening up your aperture a little bit. You may then lose the background, but so be it. But if you're shooting in bright sunlight, you never have the sun facing them, always have the sun behind them and then overexpose a little bit to get their facial features. Or the great thing is with something like the A7R II, you can underexpose and then bring it back in post, which is a great thing as well. That's the great thing about the dynamic range of the Sony cameras. What else? Marcus said the little Godox for mobile that will fire all Godox flashes. Yeah, I saw that, the little Godox one for the iPhone the other day, and it seemed to work really, really well. I actually saw that on a review somewhere, and it was quite good. He said he thinks it's called a Godox A1, but you can look up that iPhone Godox flash trigger. You should be able to find it. And there was one I saw a review somewhere where they actually showed them using it with the iPhone to flash with Flash. Tag the Shooter said, just can't believe you wear some same clothes as in your pre-show. Thanks, mate. I know I should have changed, shouldn't I, between the pre-show and the full-on show. Thanks for that. David Johnson said, the Godox Flashpoint Explorer 600 TTL is aggressively priced at $749 or on sale for $549. Now, I know that's so cheap. I mean, when you think about what you pay for Pro Photo, you know, which I think Australian is about $2,000 a light, you have to be able to justify what you get. Clearly, if you're starting out, I wouldn't be buying Pro Photo, that's for sure. There is an expectation, though, sometimes if you're shooting high-end fashion, and I do sometimes shoot the high-end work, it is nice to go in with the Pro Photo gear because sometimes I think it's sort of expected, and it's like sometimes they think with cameras and stuff. But I think sometimes it is nice to have that gear. The other thing too is I've found just the resync time alone and just its color accuracy is very, very accurate. And if you're trying to get consistency, if you're using Pro Photo, well, clearly you do pay for that consistency as well. And they are almost indestructible. I've dropped it that many times and it's never broken. But, you know, if you're starting out, I wouldn't be buying Pro Photo type stuff. I would be buying Godox. You know, I mean, it's so cheap. It's great quality. Obviously, it's very reliable. You can't go wrong with it. Hussein said, what do you use for a card reader? I use this. I think this was purchased... This is a Hoodman. Let me see if you can see it. So that's what I'm using, and it's got all of your different sizes there. Well, it's only got the two, actually. It's got your compact flash and the old one, whatever that one was called. I don't use that anymore. But I just use this. And it's USB 3. Really, really good. I would like to get one of those hubs that you keep seeing, but I don't know now whether they'll be available because that was that... what was the other company that is potentially going broke? They had hubs that were available. But so I would like something like that too. But that works really, really well. So that's what I'm using for my card reader. What else? DI just said, just updated my 18-105 to version 4. I updated that the other day. I couldn't see any difference. Let me know whether you guys can see any difference with how that works. But I haven't been able to see any difference at all with it. It's meant to be better focusing or something, and I found it's just the same. But I upgraded it anyway. I love that lens. So, yeah, I upgraded that to the latest firmware as well. Mel said, Miko's making another Sony Flashes. Yeah, so it's another copy, obviously. There's that many copies now that are coming out, and I think they're all probably pretty good because they reverse engineer them. So they are all now pretty good. The only real difference is, like I said in one of the last previous shows, is I suppose you're not paying for that technology of them developing it and things like that. And usually the cheap Chinese knockoffs aren't built as well. But then again, you could probably buy 5 of them for the amount of money that you're paying for, one of the original flashes. Marcus said, my Godox Lion Speedlight overheats at full power, but I'm just an amateur and can live with that. And that's the thing, Marcus, you know, you end up learning to live with what you've got and you can work around it. If you know that's going to be an issue, well, then you just don't push it that hard. So it's not an issue. For me, being a paid... like I said, 99% of my shoots are paid shoots. I very rarely ever do free ones. So unless it's for something that I really want to do for myself to put on YouTube or for marketing. But because they're all paid, I just want to use something that I know is going to be 100% reliable all the time. And, you know, if I'm doing a wedding and I'm 100 meters away from the bride and I'm using flash, I want to make sure that that flash works. They've paid $3,000, $4,000 for me. I don't want that to fail. And Pro Photo has never let me down. It fires every time and it's got an incredible range. So again, but that's for me and I'm being paid to do my work. So if you're being paid, then I do think sometimes you should invest in really, really good gear. But you may find that Godox works for you, but I just want to make sure that whatever I use, you know, it works and it's 100% reliable every time I use it. So that's just me. But if you're learning, I definitely wouldn't be buying something like Pro Photo. I said, seems the same to me. So, guys, yeah, we're just about at the end of those questions. So let me know any other questions you want answered. I did put in a review of this the other day, yesterday actually, which is incredible. What an amazing little monitor. I'm going to also put, I may even do it today, I'm not sure, but I'm going to put in a video about how you can use the custom profiles for log, because you've got Sony profiles built into that camera, and it's incredible how it works so that you can actually see the corrected look on the monitor. So when you're using all of your gamma profiles, you know, S-Log 3 or something like that, you can see it corrected on the screen, and it works amazing. So I've set that up yesterday. I did it on the GH5. I can't wait for my Sony power adapter and the leads to come in over the next few days. So I'm really looking for, well, it's 2 weeks, they said, B&H, so I've got to wait for it. And then I'll show you how it works on the Sony side. But I can show you how to put in the logs for Sony and stuff as well. But I might show how I've set that up for the GH5 later today. But what an amazing piece of kit. If you do have the A6500, honestly, I cannot recommend that SmallHD monitor enough. It's beautiful, and for focusing, things like that, to have it facing forward when you're doing your videography on the A6500 is a game changer. Plus it has a microphone adapter that you can plug in, so you can listen to, a headphone adapter, so you can listen to your headphones while you've got those in. And you know, that's really, sometimes I have been a bit wary about using it in weddings because I couldn't get an audio out, but now I can hear it because the HDMI takes audio out as well. Plus you can run batteries, like that battery that's on the back of this. It's not big at all. That'll last about 2.5 hours to 3 hours on the Sony, shooting in 4K. So it powers the monitor and your actual camera at the same time. So what a great system, and it's really, really light. I mean, I'll just come over to full screen, but yeah, it's really, really quite light. And, you know, I was a bit worried early on that I couldn't use this for run and gun, but I actually do think that I'm going to be able to use this for run and gun because it doesn't add much weight at all. And basically, you can see if you're looking at it through here. Now, obviously, it's overexposed. Let me just bring it down a little bit. But, you know, it works beautiful. 5 inches is a fantastic size. Really, really good. It's got focus peaking built in. Have a look at the video I posted yesterday. You'll see how it works. But it's such a really great system. The battery runs off the side in here and goes into, obviously, your battery compartment. So you'll be able to power your A6500 or your A7R2 or your A7S. There's no screen dimming, so like the problem with the A6500 is the screen dims. This will get over that, so it doesn't dim when you're shooting in 4K. But fantastic. I mean, honestly, I can't recommend this enough. I know it's reasonably expensive. I think it's $600 US. I paid $900 Australian, but it's $600 US. But boy, if you're shooting professionally, game changer, guys. And you know what? Just let me turn it off. I don't get paid by anyone. I'm not sponsored by anyone. And for me to rave about something like that, it has to be really, really good because I get nothing from these companies, and that is a game changer. I honestly think that's the best thing I've bought. And to run that on my A6500 if I'm vlogging or things like that, it's going to make it so good to use. So if you can afford it, I know it's reasonably expensive. If you can afford it though, get one for your A6500 and you won't ever look back. Fantastic. So I said, you're giving me gas. I'm telling you, I can't believe it. Like I said, they're paying me nothing, and for me to rave about something like that is just unbelievable. I can't stop playing with it, and that as well. But I just love it. It's fantastic. If you can, like I said, get one. It is totally worth the money. It has waveforms. It has your focus peaking, and the focus peaking is so accurate compared to like what you've got on the Sony natively. So guys, get it if you can afford one. Marcus said, I'm from the Dominican Republic, but I still love it. If I get serious, I'll just buy a few. The AD200 never overheats, so he's talking about Flash, obviously. Greg said, Dave says he can't have the overheating because he charges 3 to 4K for weddings. But the A6500 is the worst unreliable camera if it overheats. You know what? I've never had that overheat. And can I be honest? That is why I've bought this. That is one reason why I've bought the GH5. Because my intention is to still use the A6500 for things like putting on a gimbal and things like that. So I'm going to be using both cameras all the time. That GH5 never overheats. Apparently it will go forever. It's no time limit. It'll run forever and never overheats. So if I'm shooting things like the wedding and things like that, I'll be recording it with that, because I can just remember I shoot Fusion. So for me, sometimes I was a little bit nervous because I'll walk away from the camera that's recording the wedding and I'll be shooting other things. And I did occasionally worry about it turning off and overheating. It never happened, but it was always on my mind. Whereas now, I don't have to worry about that anymore because I'm going to be leaving the GH5 recording the things like that, which will just be set and forget, and I can walk away and then go and do the other things that I need to be doing. That's the reason why at the moment I've gone between using the Panasonic GH5 and the A6500. But I personally have not had the A6500 shut down. What else have we got here? Greg said, I own the AD200 as well, and it's awesome, man, but you won't regret it. Yeah, I have thought about that just to get it for a quick run and gun type flash. Marcus said, yes, I've also got the Flashpoint 200, and I've heard nothing but good reports about that Flashpoint. The only thing for me, I think it's a lot of my work tends to be overpowering the sun when I'm shooting the daylight weddings and things like that, and I don't think that'll be powerful enough because for me, I'd have to be too close. I like to shoot a lot of environmental work. A lot of my wedding work is environmental, showing background and also the couple standing in that background. I like to show the work sort of miniaturized. So in other words, the bride and groom are only a very small part of that surrounding. And if I've got to have the flash too close to them, then you've got to start taking multiple shots to retouch the person holding the flash out and things like that. Whereas I'd like the flash to be back a bit and then I can still overpower. And that's why I like the 500 to 600 watt units because you've got that extra power to go over them. If you were talking about low light scenarios where it's a low light, well then obviously that AD200 will be okay because you wouldn't have to have it so close to the subject. Marcus said just the dim rear screen on the A200. Oh, so it dims down, does it? Like I said, I haven't used that, Marcus, so I wouldn't know. Deblay77, how do you manage shooting stills and videos at the same time? Look, you know what? I love it. It's funny, but it can be, I suppose some people might find it stressful, but you're going to laugh. I'm often holding two cameras at the same time. I have it as an add-on for $1,200 onto my packages. Now, I don't give full videos, so there's no way I'm replacing a full videographer. But what I do give, I give a 3 to 5 minute highlight wedding video. And I love it. I really enjoy shooting the video. I love actually editing the video, and I love giving it to the brides, and they just adore it. And most of them are hiring me for that now. But I'll leave... I hire someone to carry the gear because if I'm doing video as well as still photography, there's obviously a lot more gear that I need. So I do hire someone to carry that gear around with me for the day. But all I'm doing basically is I'm holding one camera in one hand and the still in another. And that's the beauty of the Sony cameras. They're quite light. I've sometimes got a gimbal with a camera on it, and I've got my Sony camera, and I'm shooting both at the same time. It must look pretty funny, but the stabilization on these cameras is amazing, and I can do it so well. Or I'll just drop the video down, take some photos, then drop the camera down for stills and pick up the video side of it. And sometimes it's a great thing because it can be hard sometimes working with videographers sometimes. Not that they're a problem, but they can sometimes slow me down. And if you're short for time, and then you've got to set up things for you, then the videographer wants time to set up things. Well, I don't have to do that. I can do both. So I'll set them up for the still, take the shot, and then I'll immediately grab my video camera, and then I'll do the movement part of it. So it's all done in the one time, same lighting and everything. So it works really, really well for me. But guys, I'm telling you, if you want to get forward in this business, you can no longer just rely on still photography. And this is my big prediction. I think in 5 years, if you're just shooting stills, you're going to be in big problems. You are really going to have trouble getting work. You have to move into Fusion. And that's one of the big things I'm going to be telling people in my starting your wedding and videography series. You have to learn video, guys. So if you're trying to get into this industry and earn money, you need something that's different from someone else. And I'm telling you, most of my work comes from being able to do video and stills at the same time. So I know it's hard, but you're going to have to do it, guys. You're going to have to move into video. What else have we got down here? David said Godok's just released an adapter that allows you to put an AD200 together. Oh, so you can use two of them, can you? That's pretty cool too. Mel said just tested the G85 yesterday for an hour straight, 4K shoot. Body very warm. Is that the G85? Was it the Panasonic? Body very warm, but no overheating, and we live in a tropical country. Yeah, apparently, like I said, the GH5 will never overheat, and it's fully weather sealed. That's another issue as well, that sometimes I was a bit nervous carrying, if it really was heavy rain, I was a bit nervous with the Sony gear because it's not truly weather sealed. They just say it's basically, well, weather resistant, water resistant. The GH5, when you look at them, has everything is really sealed really well with rubber seals on all of the areas. The lenses are really sealed very, very well. And I've seen actual videos where they actually use them in downpours and they still function well. So the weather sealing on those is really, really good. And that's one thing now where I'm thinking, if I'm shooting video or even stills and it was pouring down, I think I'd confidently take the Panasonic GH5 out without any worries at all. Whereas I was always a bit worried with my Sony gear that, oh, is it going to ruin it? So that's another issue too that I've seen thinking about the GH5, that it has got that full weather sealing in it. The other thing too with video, it's got the dual card slots. On these dual card slots that you can see on the side, it does have two of them. And they're also hot swappable, which means if you're running one from the other, if one fills, it shows you, it has a blinking light to show which one's on. You can take the other one out and fill it back in and it'll move to that. So they are actually hot swappable while they're working. I don't think I'll be using that way. I'm going to back up video one to the other because it is a sort of a bit of a relief that I never have to worry about it, worrying about one card failing, and I've still got then another card that I can actually use. So that's the main reason why I've gone to that. Low light is an issue though with the GH5. That's why I'll be using my Sony gear for as soon as it turns dark in the receptions. I'll be using my A6500 and the A7R2, and I've even got an A7S if I want to use that. But I can use them in the low light scenarios. But for anything daylight and stuff like that, it's unbelievable. 4K 60p, incredible camera. Remember, it's all about what works for you. There's no right or wrong for anyone. There's no perfect camera, and that's what you've got to remember about all these things. There's no perfect camera out there. My A9 is incredible, incredible for what it does. But for video, it's a little bit crippled in that I can't use log and things like that. So, you know, it's an issue if I'm shooting in very contrasty scenarios. So hopefully they'll fix that with an update. Let me just go back to here, see what else someone's saying. Greg said, most of the time you control from transmitter. So, he's talking about the flash. Greg said here, Dave, would you say the AF on the A9 is so much better compared to the A7R2? I mean in speed and low light. I know it has more points, so yes, it is. Look, I wouldn't say it's 100% better, but it's a game changer. That focus on that camera, I adore my A7R2, and I'm still going to be using the A7R2 for the formal portraits when we're outside, because I want the best. When we're doing the bridal shots, when we go outside to do the formal bridal shots, I want the best image quality that you can possibly get for those images, and that has to be the A7R2. Even though the A9 is amazing, I'll be using the A7R2 the second we go out and do the formal shots. I want the most resolution for that. I want the most dynamic range. Focus is then it's not an issue. The A7R2, the focus is perfect for in that scenario. So I'll be using that in that case. If you're dealing with things like low light focusing, if you're dealing with things like backlit focusing, things like that, or if things are happening very quickly, like tracking, like the bride walking down the aisle, the A7 IX is a game changer. There's no comparison. To be honest, it's very hard to go back to the A7R2 and shoot after I've been using the A9. It's just the ergonomics are so much better, the battery's so much better, the focus is incredible. It really is hard to go back. But like I said, I am still, wedding season has not started for me yet. It's winter here. It starts again in another month. But I will be still using my A7R2 for the formal portraits, because you just can't beat that dynamic range and resolution. But focus, yeah, it's so much better than the A7R2. It's even better than the A6500. It's incredible. What else have we got over here? Mel said Panasonic G85 is a good lower priced option from the GH5 I mean. Yeah, it is if you want that, yeah. I just wanted to get the GH5. like I said, for me, it's a business write-off, so I just always want to get the best I can get. So I went for the GH5, and to be honest, I really, really like it. Terrible autofocus though. It's usable, but it's terrible compared to what Sony offer. But manual focusing is a breeze in those cameras. So I used to manual focus with my Sony cameras anyway. I'd very rarely use autofocus apart from when I was on a gimbal. The second I was holding the camera manually, I'd be using manual focus. So it's just the way it is. So I'm used to using manual focus anyway. Marcus said, Dave, any other solar eclipse pics next week? No, I don't know if we're having it here. So I'm not sure if it's, I think it's more for you guys in the US and Europe, I think. I don't know. I've not heard of anyone talking about it in Australia, so we mustn't be getting it. High Energy Research said, Dave, so you always need to hire someone now you do weddings because you also do video. Yeah, well, I don't always do video, but a lot of the weddings, remember, I've booked from 2 to 3 years ago that I'm actually even doing now. So I'm sort of booked out until 2019. So they're weddings that have already been booked. Now, the weddings that I've got from 2 years ago, I wasn't doing Fusion in those weddings, so I haven't got video in those weddings. So sometimes they're adding it as an option. When they see what I do, they'll say, David, can we add as an option? And I just charge them $1,200 to add that as an extra. So that's available for people if they want it. But the weddings that I've got from a couple of years ago haven't got it, so I'm not hiring someone for that. I've always got one assistant working with me, though, a second shooter, and an assistant working with me with every wedding. And I usually have an extra person to lug gear around. But definitely if I'm doing video, I hire someone just to lug the video gear around, because there is a lot of extra lighting that you've got to lug around. There's the audio stuff to it. There's extra cameras that I'm bringing, tripods, monopods and things like that I have to hire someone to lug. I just can't do that. So I usually charge, like I said, $1,200 extra to do that, and then I'll pay someone $200 or so to come with me for the day and lug that around. Sometimes, though, if someone's willing to actually learn from me, and this happens a lot, I'll put it out there and ask for someone that wants to follow me around for the day, that I can be a mentor to them, they can watch what I do. I often get people that will do that for nothing because they're getting a lot out of it as well. All they have to do is lug my gear for the day, but they can watch how I shoot the whole day, and that's really good for up-and-coming photographers as well, and a lot take that up as well. I often advertise on YouTube, on Facebook, and I'll get stacks of people that are interested in doing that. What else is people saying here? We've got Hi-Fi Energy said, do you think the RX10 Mark II is good enough to do 4K video for weddings? No, probably not. I wouldn't be using that. Are you talking about the problem with that is it does overheat a bit apparently, but it's such a short time that you can focus on. You could probably use it in a pinch as a spare camera, but if you're going to do wedding videos, I'd have the A6500 or the A6300. Amazing cameras, incredibly sharp and beautiful. I wouldn't buy the A7S II now, to be honest. I wouldn't get that camera at all. I'd save your money and get the A6500 over. The only thing it will give you is if you're working in complete darkness. Everything else, the A6500 is a much better camera. Mel said, do you use music in your short video? What kind and where do you get them from? Yes, I do. I use them from, let me just go to the site. I'll just bring up another page. Let me just move this and I'll show you the site that I use. What is it? Audio. Let me just bring this up and I'll show you. I use this site. It's called Audio Blocks. Fantastic service. Again, they don't pay me to promote them. The good thing with them is if you have issues with YouTube, that they'll actually do it for you. You just send a note to them and they'll fix the dispute for you. So they work really, really well. And it's great. So I use them, which are great. So you can search for different genres, things like that. You can look for loops, sound effects. They have all different things, and I buy a yearly subscription through them. The other one that I use too that I buy a yearly subscription from is this company, I think. No, it's not that one. Music. Just trying to think if I've got them. No, I haven't. I think it's Sound something. Oh, there we go. It'll be the S. I think it's them. Soundstripe is the other company that I use. So I pay for yearly subscriptions from both of these companies, Soundstripe and also that the one I just showed you a second ago before. And they've got more than enough videos for me to use for my audio when I'm looking at things. Let me just scroll back to the questions so you can get that. So they're the two ones that I use for that. Let me just quit that drawing. What else have we got? Greg said, I'm not comfortable having single SD card on the A7R2 at weddings. I can understand what you're saying. I've never ever had a card fail, and I have to say that, and I've been shooting a long, long time. I've never ever had one that's failed. But I have to tell you, since I've got the A9, I never used to think about it, but since I've got the A9 and now I've got a complete backup of, I do RAW on one, JPEG on the other, I am a little bit more comfortable. I've thought about it a couple of times and think, oh, well, at least if something went wrong, I have got a backup there. But like I said, I've never had anything go wrong. And from what I've heard, if you did have a card that fails, as long as you take it out of your camera straight away, you can send it off and they will be able to recover it. So if there was a disaster, you could recover it. But there is always that issue that you could have a problem. But remember, I'm also shooting multiple cameras. So I do have multiple cameras on me. And I've also got a second shooter that's shooting. So it wouldn't be a disaster if I did have that happen. If you were shooting on your own, yeah, God help you if a camera failed, because that would be a real issue. I could get away with it because I would have multiple cameras. I'm never shooting just on one. I'm always shooting on like I've got a 35 and an 85 lens on two different cameras. So I am shooting constantly with that. And like I said, I've always got a second shooter that's also shooting as well. So it wouldn't be a complete disaster because I always would have images that you could count on. If you're shooting on your own, you would have to think about it, yes. Because if you lost all your images, you would be screwed if you couldn't recover them. So yeah, that would be an issue. As long as you have backup and you're using multiple cameras, I don't think it's an issue. Marcus said, already think it's a bad idea, but pointing digital SLR straight into the sun is a bad idea, even if briefly, as it will damage your sensor. Yeah, I wouldn't ever point your camera directly at the sun. You're talking about for the eclipse. Yeah, I'd be nervous about it too because it can fry your sensor. Lasers can fry your sensor. I've seen cameras immediately destroyed by using lasers as well. So that can be a problem. What else have we got? Mel said, Hi-Fi Energy Research, we use a Panasonic FEDS 1000 for 4K video, no overheating. Yeah, that's the thing I've heard, that the GH5 never overheats. Mel said, David, please post the link to the music later. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll put it on the comments down below. I'll do that for you. The ones that I use. And like I said, I pay for them. I think it might be $100 a year. I can't remember. But they don't pay me to give them at all. I'd love if they did. I'd love if they gave me free subscription. But they don't. What else have we got? Hi, Fanny said, David, what would you recommend for selling your used cameras? eBay, Craigslist, Instagram. Well, I'm very hesitant. I've used a thing called Gumtree in Australia, and I'm selling actually a tripod today that I'm actually selling, and I'm also selling a slider and a head tonight, actually. They're both going tonight. I use Gumtree because I only ever sell something for cash. I'm really hesitant to use anything where I send the article off, because it becomes a scam. You can so easily get scammed where then they're saying they never received the article. Then you've got to put PayPal disputes in, something else. So I'm not sure about what you use in the US, but like in Australia, I'm using Gumtree. The other thing I found too is that, and I'm not sure how this goes in the US and in the UK, here in Australia, if you sell something through eBay, you get taxed on it. And I've actually been hit by a lot of tax. I've sold a lot of gear, and I had to pay quite a lot of money back on tax because the taxation department here monitors what you sell. eBay actually send to the taxation department what you actually sell. So that's another issue as well. You pay a lot of tax. So I like to actually now use Gumtree, which is, you can use PayPal and things like that, but I only use pickup and cash. So basically, if they're going to buy something, they have to pick it up from me local and they have to pay cash. So I suppose you could use something like Craigslist You could probably, I don't know whether you can do that on eBay or what you use in the States, but that's how I'm working out now here. I don't want any scams. I just can't be bothered with working out with PayPal disputes and things like that. So yeah, that's the way I'm selling. I'm selling local. And I'm also selling a lot through Facebook as well. The user groups that are out there as well. I'm getting a lot of responses through those too. So, you know, great way of using it too. What else have we got? Mel said 1-inch sensor for 4K video is possible except in extreme low light. And that's the problem, yeah. If you're using the GH5 in low light, it can be a real issue. But I now add light, so I don't think it's ever going to be an issue. I can actually, I've tested it, and I can push the GH5 up to 3200 ISO, and it still looks quite good, so I'm quite happy with that. Obviously, if I need more than that, I can go to the A6500 or the A7R2 or my A7S, so it's not a problem. Which memory cards are you using? I'm using the latest SanDisk, the fastest SanDisk. I can't remember what they are, but they're the latest ones and the fastest that are available. And I'm also using the Sony cards as well. So I've got two in there. I've got one Sony one, which is their real high-end one, and I'm also using the Sony version as well, the latest one of that. They're the latest Mark II versions, whatever they are, but they're the fastest cards you can buy. They're in the A9. All the other ones, I'm just using the SanDisk cards. That's basically all I'm using. And I've never used any other cards from that, and that's why I'd always recommend SanDisk, because they've never let me down. They're great cards. Hi-Fi Energy said, yeah, I agree, Dave. Local cash is best. Avoid scams. And that's the thing, you know. I just don't, even if they take longer to sell, I don't care. I just don't want scams. There's so much stuff out there going on now about things don't show up and then they reverse the money. Then you've got to basically dispute it in PayPal. I've had issues too where they buy them on eBay and then all of a sudden the money never comes through. Oh, it's just a pain. I just can't be bothered doing that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to sell for cash like on eBay. I mean, on Gumtree and Facebook and places like that. So any last questions, guys, before we go? So if you haven't been able to leave a question, please leave them down below and I'll get back to you. I always make sure I answer all the questions down there. Like I said, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to me. I've got some great videos coming up too over the coming weeks. I'll be also posting more on my setting up your photography business. I've got to get that going. I just haven't had time. Apart from that, guys, if there's no more questions, we might finish. Hi-Fi Energy Researcher said, what is the best way to build your business starting out? Portraits. What is the best way to build your business starting out? Shoot portraits to save money or get a Sony A9 for weddings. Oh, so you're saying if you're starting out buying a camera, well, you don't have to buy an A9. I wouldn't start out on buying an A9. There's no reason. You can quite comfortably shoot with the A6500. There's no reason. That's an amazing camera for still photography. Don't let anyone tell you can't shoot professional work with an A6500. That's crap. You can. You can shoot amazing work with the Fuji. You can shoot amazing work. Even I'm going to do a full-on shoot with a Panasonic GH5 just to show you it's even possible with that. Remember, it's your skill. It's your skill to manipulate light. It's your skill to pose and things like that that matter. It's not the camera. So if you've got little money, my suggestion would be to buy something like an A6500 and then buy some, if you think you're going to go full frame, buy some really good full frame glass and build up that way. Bums. Hi from Miami. Thank you for all the great advice. No worries, mate. Thanks for looking in. How's a mechanical shutter with off-camera flash on the Sony A9? Not a problem at all. I'm still waiting on Profoto, though, to release an update. I can use it up to... I can't use TTL and HSS at the moment with the Profoto on the A9 until they give an update on that. So I'm still waiting on that. So at this stage, if I'm going to use TTL or HSS, I have to use the Sony flashes. But it will come out. But the mechanical shutter, if you're under that 2/50th of a second, is fine. It's great, just like using the A7R2. It works just exactly the same way, so no issue at all. But I try, well, whenever I'm not using flash, though, I'll be in the electronic shutter because it's so much better. Mel said, I'd go for the A6500 and the A7R2 and get good glass. Exactly, yeah, you should. Don't start out with the A9 and then you can't afford good glass because there's no point doing that. Start with lower end of camera. And remember, the A7R2 is going to be an amazing camera for the next 2 to 3 years still. I won't be upgrading that camera. Not for at least a couple of years, I don't think. there's no reason why I'd need more dynamic range or more resolution than what I've got in that camera, so I won't be upgrading that one. I will upgrade the A6500 when that's replaced. Whatever that is, I'll replace that, but I won't be getting a new A7R because I'm happy with what I've got. And Hi-Fi said, I've got the A6300. Is that? Yeah, it's fine. Great camera. Look, there's not much difference between the A6300 and the A6500. The only difference really is the stabilization. It is quicker to check when you're shooting, like the buffer is much faster in the A6500. Image quality, though, is basically exactly the same. The ISO is exactly the same, so I wouldn't worry about that at all. There's nothing wrong with that. Buy some good glass. Ben said, do you ever use 4K video frames as stills to fill in? No, I didn't. I don't use that. Look, the only real reason why I don't do that is because I like to use Flash for starters. Most of my work is using Flash. You can't use that clearly with shooting video. The only time I've used it was I had an issue once in one of the weddings I did, and for some reason something went wrong with one of the cameras, and I couldn't get the images correct for the stills out of my cameras. Luckily, I was shooting 4K video footage, and I did grab stills from my A6500, and I used them for their dance wedding pics, and they were fine. So you can do it, yes. The only issue is motion blur most of the time on those images. Often they're not quite sharp enough because your shutter speed is not usually fast enough to get that frame really sharp. So it can be done, but I don't do it. But I am going to test some of that with the GH5 because it does 6K photo capture, and I'm going to try that on that. I have done it with the A6500, and it's not bad, but again, it's not as good as using your still shots. Greg said, Dave, can you do 120 frames per second of A6500 to A9 and GH5? Yes, you can. The way I've looked at it so far is I'm finding the 120... Look, to be totally honest, I'm finding the video side to the GH5 is so much better than anything Sony has got on offer at the moment. If you're dealing with just video alone, that is a killer. It's a killer camera if you're dealing with video alone. If you're dealing with stills, you can't beat Sony. If you're dealing with Fusion using stills and video, you still can't beat Sony. So what I'd be suggesting to people, if you're buying a camera solely for video, I'd be getting the GH5 over anything Sony has at the moment in that price range. If you're getting a Fusion camera to do both, I'd be saying go Sony and get the A6500 where you can get great stills and great video. If you're dealing with just great stills alone, get the A7R or the A9. But yeah, that you just can't beat, I think, the video, what I'm getting out of that GH5 is just superb. For what it is, it's incredible. Stabilization and everything is just stunning. Like I said, there's no perfect camera though. DI said, what do you think will be the next Sony camera? Well, I think it'll obviously be the A6700. I think will come out early next year. And obviously the A7 III I think will be out early next year. They may announce one late this year, but I don't think it'll come out till next year. I love the guy that says that. We've got a bit of a troll commenting on the actual things. Yeah, go ahead, mate. I love it. Just ignore it. Yeah, so that's basically what I think. You should basically get, the best camera that you can at that time. And then, like I said, there's no real perfect camera that you can have out there. It's just basically you get whatever you can get, is the best thing that you can get. What else has Mel said? Bell, we use 4K video stills on vows. Oh, okay. Well, that's a good, interesting comment. And other non-formal shots. Let me just bring this off because we got this wanker. I love saying I'm just going to take him off so we can't see him because obviously we've got a troll in the thing. Oh, some people. You know what I found? That the more popular you tend to get on YouTube, the more of these, we call them wankers in Australia. They're just trolls and I just laugh at them. Honestly, they're so funny. So Ben said, we use 4K video stills on vows and other non-formal shots. Well, that's great. So does it work for you well, Mel? I must try that one time. It sounds like it might be a good thing. Formal shots always all stills, yeah. And that's what I'd be saying. I'd always use that. Look, I think in the future, the way these cameras are going, once you get 8K, you probably, and that will happen within the next couple of years, shooting it that way is probably not going to be an issue at all. The only reason why I say it might be an issue is if you have Flash and things like that. You can't shoot video, obviously, with Flash. And so that could be the problem, and that's going to be the difference between using video type footage and what you use on stills, because you still have to shape that moment. If you're dealing with, you know, your formal stuff, like I said, most of my work deals with Flash, so you never use it. Hi-Fi Energy said they are Wallies. I know, it's funny. It's a crack up. Mel said for portraiture, get good glass mainly, and then get good lighting, Flash and LED. That's the thing too, guys. You can't underestimate good glass. Remember, glass you keep for 10 years, your camera bodies can be changed every 2 to 3 years. So if you've got more money, the best thing to do is buy good glass. Good glass makes a much bigger difference than a good body. So just think about that when you're actually buying something. So, well, that might be it, guys. I think we might call it a day. And just laugh at that Adam Lanza. What a wanker. I love it. We'll see you again for the next video. So thanks, guys, for watching. And